One day, as he lied with the rest of the pride in the shade of a tree in the heat outside, young Brian the lion yawned a big yawn, right there in the prairie that used to be lawn. He said as he yawned, "I feel sorry for you. I feel horrible. You never lived like I do." "What are you saying?" asked his pal Paul the cub. "What have you ever done? What's the joke? What's the rub?" Brian sighed, raised his brows, and rolled both his eyes, then told Paul some tall tales that were littered with lies. "Truth be told," blathered Brian, "I'm the heir to the throne, and I'm quite accomplished on jazz saxophone. I'm a top trampolinist, a fiddling fool. I was once a hairstylist, but I quit beauty school. I have climbed Eiffel Tower, I've swam the 7 seas. I spent a few years of my life training fleas." Heck, there was a time when I was chief chef. I once ran a deep diver with only a brief breath. I went viral at 4 with some silly old meme, and by 5 I was on a pro basketball team. I have scaled all the mountains, shimmied up every tree, and somewhere in Vegas there's a statue of me. I have partied with sharks. I have been to every state park. I once parked with a shark on a lark in the dark. I had my own business and worked right out of my home. And by 8, it was great. I owned half the Rome. By then, many animals showed up to hear tales and listen to Brian birth even more whales. I've been here and there, heck, I've been everywhere. I once worked in an office just west of Times Square as mid-level executive in charge of IT. If you don't know what IT is, try Google. It's free. I once flew an eagle straight to the moon, and I was married at 10 to a purple baboon. I can eat 90 hot dogs. I eat eggs by the dozen. I'm the resident president, and the queen is my cousin. I'm amazing, I know. Been this way since birth. Oh no! I've done wonderful things to make my mark on this earth. Paul couldn't bear it, all these fibs from his friend. You're like a giant sweater with yarns that never end. Those things are not you. They're just lies in your head. They're fables from books that you've probably not read. Imaginative, yes, but so far from the truth, you've done nothing in life. And pal, we've got the proof. We've been here with you since you were quite small. And as for the antics, we've witnessed them all. Your life been quite quiet. One might call it lame. And even Stephen the Sloth thinks your life's been quite tame. The entire crowd gasped. Brian's pride had been hurt. He hung his head low and looked down at the dirt. And waterworks started. Someone's opened the drain, 'cause out of his eyeballs it started to rain. Afraid he'd be labeled fake and a phony, he was so full of tears and so full of baloney. "You're right," he admitted, through all of his tears. "I've done nothing impressive in all of my years." The crying continued and formed a large pool. "I was trying to impress you and trying to seem cool." Lyin Brian was crying and just couldn't stop. His tears sprayed the crowd like a shook soda pop. A cute, cheeky monkey was one wet little fella, and Cam, the hump camel, put up an umbrella. In fact, so much water came with each lion tear that a couple fowl sported foul weather gear. And then the hyenas, now in a canoe, laughed as they paddled, as hyenas do. All the prairie was now underwater, and now all of the animals look like an otter. Paul couldn't bear it. He touched Brian's paw and remarked to his pal about what he just saw. I said all your lies were just things in your head. You didn't do all the things that you said. But gosh, you do one thing no one can believe. You can make rivers with tears when you've grieved. That's your true talent, Brian. It could be your career. You could sob for your supper and tear in your beer. You could cry like a baby who needs a new diaper, or wail like a bagpipes when blown by a piper. Your line was fine, but it wasn't your thing. When it comes to crying, friend, you are the king. Then Brian stopped crying and wiped both his eyes. He blew his nose in a tissue and looked up at the skies. Then he stared at the crowd that had gathered around, then down at his tears that had wetted the ground. Oh, I wasn't crying. Those were crocodile tears. I studied acting in college for 17 years. And those tears were all fake. It wasn't real crying, but everyone knew that Brian was lying.